Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
Oh wait, is it rolling?
It's rolling. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Okay, I think that I have a very creative personality. Even though I'm very like sunshine, bright, like positive attitude, it's kind of good for me to experiment like a dark and moody vibe. Like I do know that I'm like a bubbly girl and it's different from how I look, but I think it makes me cool because I am mysterious because I don't look as my personality, look like my personality.
Not from your Instagram.
That's what I'm saying, very mysterious.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay with me.
I went on to tell Alina in this little interview we did about this idea I've always had in my head about looking like an artist and whether it mattered if people could identify you as an artist by looking at you. Should it be easily visible to people what type of person you are? Or is it good that they have to guess? And like Alina said here, the sense of mystery can be helpful. But you know, as it is alluring, it's also frustrating because nobody wants to be misunderstood, right? And so as I talked with her and as I thought more and more about it, as I've thought for years about it, I think I finally narrowed down why this gets stuck on my mind. And the thing is that I have this internal belief in a meritocracy, in a world that people get what they deserve. And sometimes you look out into the world and you see people that project a certain image and get treated as if that image is a reality. And there's this frustration and this cognitive dissonance where I'm seeing the world reward things that are not real. And so I want to explore that idea in this video, tell you why that was always a wrong kind of hater mindset, I guess, that I have, and a realization I had about how I can use image to my advantage, and some of these realizations I have that are more about how little we control how we're seen, and then what it means to own our narrative as a creative without feeling like we're being a fraud or we're putting on airs and being pretentious.
Yeah, what floor is it, P?
2R, it said.
Okay.
My cousin Pablo told me once that if you believe in the meritocracy, you'd be surprised how many things you'd get passed up on that you think you deserve. And there's other people that would quote unquote deserve it more than you. And that's another one that really stuck with me. And even though I still kept wondering about the meritocracy and still kind of believe in it to an extent, or at least I want to create versions of it in the systems and the places that I get to structure and build, it was humbling because I know there's so many talented artists whose work never sees the light of day because they either don't want to share things or are not great business people, and no one hires them, no one knows they exist. And it's scary to think of it that way. So that was one reason why I realized, like, hey, you know, this meritocracy is not all that it's cut out to be. But secondly, the fact is that most things in life are not judged on their merit, and they don't have to be, or at least the merit is not as measurable as we think it is. Yes, sometimes it's frustrating to think someone's branding and the narrative they put out there puffs themselves up in ways that their product or skills don't actually measure up to. That's the hater, right, thinking about this. But as humans, we need affirming narratives for our experiences. We buy things not because of the quality of what they're made most of the time, but because of how they make us feel and how those things make us see ourselves. So the narratives we create matters, and with good reason. Not just because our narratives and branding are marketing tools, but because people are constantly looking for meaning. And so if you can build a brand and an image that sells a lifestyle or a vision to someone, whether it makes them feel cool for finding you because you're sharing some esoteric visions with them, or because you make them look cool as a photographer or some other kind of creator, there's value in that. And honestly, that's part of what I even sell in my own messaging, sharing with people how I want to capture a side of themselves that they don't always get to see, whether that's a raw version of themselves that feels genuine or a character that they want to create. That's a story that I'm telling them. And yes, I'd like to think I have the skills to back that up, but the story has to be there. If you just have a raw set of skills and people can't see where to apply them, how they connect, it won't mean anything for them. And so instead of being a hater of the narratives that people put out there and measuring whether those narratives measure up with their skills, what I've kind of realized is that the narrative is what helps people. In this shoot with Alina, using this replacement camera, I was thinking about how nobody would know that I use another camera unless they're really into, it's just inside baseball knowledge, right? And of course that meant revisiting my color grading, working in different focal lengths because I had different lenses for this camera, making sure my lighting was precise because it was not a full frame camera, so I wouldn't have any leeway if I messed something up the way I would with my other one. But the point is that who would know any of that besides haters like me who are also holding themselves back because their internal rules are too rigid? I kind of forced that in there, but the point is my images still had my touch. They had my feel. What I captured felt like something I would capture. And so the technicality did not matter as long as the visual language and narrative was there and it was mine. And when I think of the people who book me, this is why they book me. I've sold them on a vision and a story where they can see themselves being represented by me. Of course, they can distinguish the quality, but it's the way I'm applying those skills to a certain perspective, and the things I'm writing, the things I talk about, the memes I share, all these things that let them know I'm someone like them. I'm someone who values what they value, and I'm someone who will be able to capture who they are. And so whether I think I'm doing it in a realer, less pretentious way than more ostentatious people that are trying to just go viral all the time, and again, that's a little hater talk, but I don't really judge anyone off of this stuff. It's always been about selling a narrative. And even in refusing to do it a certain way, that's a narrative, and people connect with that part of me. And so if I really think I'm being misunderstood at all, then it's up to me to reframe that narrative and take control of it. But then here's where I always had this hang up. If the point is to control the narrative, isn't it a bit egotistical and feels like lying in a way? When I see all the advice about branding is that you should position yourself as an expert. And while I'm learning as much as anybody else, I'm here sharing this not as an expert, but sharing what I've learned so far. There's an arrogance to a lot of this branding that always makes me feel a little gross. As much as, again, in the same breath, I'll hate on somebody and say, I don't think that person's as skilled as me. I don't think they've been in the gym as long as I have. I still shy away from saying those types of things. And another model I was talking to, a friend of mine named Maddie, actually helped me clarify this a little bit. And I share this, that sometimes I feel like focusing too much on the appearances and trying to elevate myself a little bit and build the myth of Starkey photography, of Starkey Productions, that it feels egotistical. But she really summed it up very simply and succinctly and meaningfully, poignantly. So many leads, right? So many adverbs here. Where she said that, and I wrote this down in a little notebook, so I have the quote verbatim. And she said, it's not ego, it's adding life to your act and to your personal brand. And I thought that was such a healthy perspective, adding life to it. Because the thing is, you have to tell a story because people don't know you. You have to make them understand you. And yes, there's signals you can use. And if you don't want to use certain signals, don't use those signals. But you still have to communicate something. And of course, you shouldn't be so hung up on how people perceive you. But I felt, for me at least, that in trying to not be a certain way, I wasn't always putting out what I was. It was a lot of kind of rules and restrictions I had for myself to make me a certain way and make a certain type of work. And the work was saying something, but I feel like it was even holding back my work. And I'm actually really excited for new work coming forward after really clarifying this realization for myself, because I want to add more life to my work. But the narrative doesn't exist apart from your work, but it doesn't precede it either. When you put a narrative that matches what you've created, and what you've created speaks for itself, there's synergy and it all goes together. And so I realized that in an attempt to find purity in my own work and presentation, I really had just created these measurements by which to judge others who I thought were either too ostentatious or more form than function, and in doing so restricted my own output. In Khalil Gibran's poem, epic poem, the prophet, there is a passage that says this: "And my heart bled within me, for you can only be free when even the desire of seeking freedom becomes a harness to you, and when you cease to speak of freedom as a goal and a fulfillment." End quote. The freedom to express yourself as an artist can only come when you can truly be yourself. When, as the quote says, you're not even thinking of freedom from this. When you just are not concerned with others, and when you're not concerned with the perception of you. Just like he says here, you can't even be thinking of being free. If you're thinking of wanting to be free, you're not free. There's an ascendance that has to happen for that to take place. And so in this case, that's my next step. The idea is that truly being yourself and free is when you're not actively building a brand or myth building, but when you've torn down the walls of your ego and stripped yourself of false rules, and you can just exist and make what feels right to you. And this is what I'm going to be aiming for in the coming days, to make something that is so specific to me and my vision that it tells the story I needed to tell, and I can boldly step out and defend that story. As long as I'm saying the right things with my work, perception does not matter. And so that's what I'm aiming for these days, and I hope you can feel inspired to do the same. Let me know if this made sense, if it was too real and embarrassing to share this stuff, or if you could relate.
The people who it counts for them to know that you're creative, like they'll know when you're talking to you, and or they'll notice like your work. Like that's who you really want to know
That's what I'm
anyway.
saying, like when people see it, like that's what I mean.